Hey Believers, this is SuperZombGBBQ, and today we look at the best and worst cards, something you guys have requested a lot. Best and worst cards in Beast and Monster tier. We're going to look at not just the males, but the females as well. We're going to be looking at some of the cards that you want to get your hands on, and the ones you might want to move out of your deck quite quickly. There's a couple of interesting selections here, and there's some ones I'm really happy with, and some I'm really shocked by as to either how high or how low they are. But if you like what you see and you want this to happen more often, maybe quicker, make sure you like this video if you want to see more of it. And we are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. 90,000, 100,000, we're going to get there soon enough. I want you all to subscribe to the channel, support the channel, turn your notifications on, become a Zaleeva right now, and we will get to 100,000 in absolutely no time, people. If you've got any personal favourites, let us know in the comment section below, but let's get right into it. Best and worst female and male Beast and Monster cards. Let's do this. Before we break into the best and worst of Beast and Monster tier, it is important to state that this is based off of total stats alone. This is not based on opinion. If it was based on opinion, my personal best and worst cards would be something completely different. It's also important to let you know that these were obtained through the website, the SmackDown Hotel. Go and check them out. So let's break first of all down into the worst male cards in Beast tier, and then we'll break into the worst females, best females, and then best males afterwards. So this is the worst 5 that are physically available. So if you've got these are the lowest ranked cards overall, and there will be some of you who will not be surprised, but unlike last year in season 3 where we had Hardened, Elite and Ultimate all having very similar cards, there are some big differences in the best and worst tiers this time because of incoming legends and also people who are in one tier but not in others, which we'll talk about actually more detail in just a moment. Let's talk about number 5. The 5th worst card in Beast tier is Noam Dar. Unfortunately, Noam Dar's independent success hasn't quite transferred yet over to WWE after a very, I would say, interesting storyline with Cedric Alexander and Alicia Fox, and unfortunately due to a severe injury he's now going to be out for some time. However, Noam Dar personally is someone I enjoy watching on 205 Live, and I personally wouldn't have him at the bottom of this, but 2K and Cat Daddy believe that Noam Dar should be towards the bottom of Beast tier, so he makes his way at number 5. Number 4 is No Way Jose. Well, this isn't too surprising. NXT people tend to find themselves towards the bottom of a tier because they are in developmental, and No Way Jose hasn't really done too much noteworthy, events, etc. He's not won any gold in NXT, so this isn't really surprising if I'm going to be honest, although he's a very useful left arrow in the tier. Next comes down to R-Truth. Now, R-Truth doesn't make an appearance in either Monster tier or Titan tier, so it's surprising to see him in one of the bottom tiers in Beast tier, and not really surprising to see him towards the bottom. I mean, he's barely been on TV, and the guy literally is a relic at this point, but he's a great relic and someone I really liked watching back in the day. Even as recent as the Golden Truth gimmick, I personally really liked the stuff that R-Truth was delivering, and thought personally he might have a chance of getting a major title before he retires. I don't think that's going to happen now though. Mark Henry comes in at the 2nd worst, and again this is something that people shouldn't be too surprised with, especially the fact that Mark Henry hasn't been seen for some time on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown Live. And we come down to the worst of the worst, and realistically speaking, given he was only in this tier, he's not in Monster or Titan tier, there's only one person that could be at the bottom of this list. The man with a horrendous losing streak, Kurt Hawkins. Face the facts. This unfortunately is just a running joke from WWE's perspective. He goes out every single night, and unfortunately WWE likes to see him lose, which means the SuperCard undoubtedly we're going to make him one of the worst cards available. That and Sawyer Fulton wasn't available at the time. But now break down into the ladies. First the worst females. And we are going to, again, this list includes some of the women in WWE who are not available in either Monster or in Titan tier. So first of all, third worst being Peyton Royce. Now, this isn't entirely surprising. Go back to No Way Jose for my justification on that. They've not really done anything of note. Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, and Billie Kay is in at number 2 worst in the tier. But the fact they're in the game at all is a good thing. And they do make a return to this back in Monster tier, but thankfully they don't have Titan cards, otherwise they probably would be the worst by quite a margin. Again, it's the NXT effect of having a new superstar who's not quite over into the main roster yet, being one of the worst. But this is where it surprises me, because Dana Brooke comes in as the worst beast female. And honestly, she's only available in this tier. She's kind of like a Kurt Hawkins at this point. WWE don't use her well in any way, shape or form. And this is purely based off of stats. You may have Dana Brooke and she may win loads of matches, but overall stats based, she isn't one of the best cards. In fact, she is the worst of Beast tier. Beast females, the top. And we're going to start from number 3. The third best in the tier goes to Charlotte, the daughter of Ric Flair. Woo! She is one of the best in the tier, and that's not really surprising. The current SmackDown Live Women's Champion is, well, not really much to say about Charlotte. She's an incredible athlete. She deserves to be in this list. Enough said. Second, and I'm surprised about this one given how much they're pushing it, although it does make sense storyline wise, as Alexa Bliss will surely soon be challenged by this lady. Asuka makes in at number 2. And Asuka, very, very different opinion on this one. She was one of the best in the last game in Season 3 across all of the tiers. And the reason why she was because she had this incredible undefeated streak on NXT. Alexa Bliss, on the other hand, is the Raw Women's Champion and has been now twice, if I'm mistaken, for 3 times. I believe it's twice. And was the first person or first woman to ever have a Raw and SmackDown title. In fact, if I'm not wrong, she is the first person to hold the major championships on both Raw and SmackDown. So, Alexa Bliss being the first person to ever do that is a big deal, and she is undoubtedly at the top of the women's division. And I cannot wait and hope that we are going to be seeing an Alexa Bliss versus Asuka match at WrestleMania 34. But moving on to the best of the best, this is the best males. So we've had the best females, now on to the men. And we're going to start off at number 5, which is a surprising inclusion, Jinder Mahal and Seth Rollins. At some point, especially at the top, you tend to see more people who are joint best. So let's say joint 5th, joint 4th, joint 3rd. And I'm going to include those in this list. So Jinder Mahal and Seth Rollins are the 5th best cards in this tier. Now, why am I surprised by this? I personally thought that Seth Rollins would be higher, and I personally thought that Mahal would be higher. And that actually comes to number 4, the 4th best, which is Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Again, I would have put Roman Reigns probably even higher. I would have had Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns closer towards the top. Personally, Dean Ambrose kind of gets lost in the shuffle in Beast and Monster tier. And Kevin Owens is a big surprise. He is a huge, huge part of SmackDown Live. But I would never have put him over Jinder Mahal after the year Jinder Mahal has had. And the kind of crazy year that Kevin Owens has had, especially on SmackDown Live. Well, him and Sami Zayn are pretty much the reason I tune into SmackDown Live. And, well, Roman is Roman. Just above that in 3rd place are AJ Styles and Strowman. And you would expect Braun Strowman to be up the top. I'm surprised after he got beaten down so badly by Brock Lesnar at No Mercy that he's around the top area. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. Everyone needs a bit of Braun in their life. So if you've got AJ Styles or Braun Strowman, be happy because they're in the top 3, baby. Moving on to 2nd best in the tier. And this one, there's going to be a few people who are going to be subjective. And I think this is more based off a legacy than it is based on current ability or current, what's the best way of saying this? How long they've been around in WWE, and it's surprising that they've gone down this route. John Cena is the 2nd best card in Beast tier. Maybe even, I'd say Cena's probably top 5, but nowhere near the second place. But that's just my opinion. If you've got John Cena, be happy. Second in the tier. Number one really goes to no one else other than the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar was always going to be near the top. The guy is a Universal Champion. He will hold the Universal Championship for more than 365 days, potentially longer. And if he does hold it longer, there is a possibility he could break CM Punk's record as the longest reigning modern day WWE champion. If I was looking at top 5 to name one best card out of those, I would say, well, let's look at women and men. I personally would go along with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, maybe even Braun Strowman, are probably the best cards stat-wise, looking at all of their stats. But there's no left arrows at the top, so any left arrows underneath Mahal and Rollins are going to be incredibly important, especially if you hold access to Cena-style Strowman. You've got, I mean, Owens is a down arrow. That's going to be really important. He's a really important player. I'd say, out of all those, I would say Owens. I would say Owens is probably the most useful out of these because you've got Brock, Mahal, Roman, all up arrows, and you've got no left arrows in there. So he's probably the most useful out of the top 5. If you go to females, it is simply put Asuka. She is just an absolute demon, and there are so many up and down arrows now that it's a good thing to have Asuka. I mean, Alexa Bliss is great, and you've got the likes of Natalya, who's higher up in the tiers now, but honestly, personally, Asuka is just, if you've got Asuka, then be happy, because there is just so many different options for tagging with that lady right now. Now move on into Monster Tier. Monster Tier. People are really making their way up in the new season, and it's important to note that, again, this is based on statistics only, but we're going to break down into the worst men first, and we're going to start off with the Bludgeon Brothers. Now, this wasn't actually something that they knew at the time, but the Bludgeon Brothers have now debuted on SmackDown. Eric Rowan and Luke Harper are the 5th worst in the tier. I think now they're probably more mid-tier. Again, this is purely based off of how they've been booked. I mean, Rowan has been, he's been probably one of the most underutilized big guys in WWE history. I mean, I know the guy is not amazing in the ring, but Jesus, the guy is an absolute powerhouse, and it's crazy to see how bad Harper and Rowan have. They've just never really picked up after the Wyatt family, which is really, really strange. Moving down, and this man, well, I don't think he can handle this. Enough said. 3rd worst goes to Hideo Itami, the newest member of 205 Live, and another member of 205 Live, Mustafa Ali. We're looking at this from the best and worst. Again, Itami, if we're talking statistically, fine and fair enough, but as a left arrow, he's going to be incredibly useful. Mustafa Ali, on the other hand, not so much. Not surprised to see these guys here. It is a bit of the NXT effect, with 205 Live being a 3rd/4th brand, if you look at ratings, overall compared to the Raw and SmackDown Live rosters. Then you go down to Zack Ryder and Rusev Day in English. It's not Rusev, but it is his left hand, right hand man. But let's put it this way, maybe his most recent run with WWE with Rusev has not maybe transferred into the game yet, but he is picking up steam in WWE, and maybe we'll see in the future him higher up on the list. However, there is no replacing the worst in the tier. I mean, he is by far the worst, unfortunately, and although he is incredibly useful, I would say personally my worst in the tier is Aiden English, if you're looking at overall usability, but because of his stats, and he is much lower than anyone else, it is the Velveteen Dream, unfortunately. If you go back to Season 1, Roman Reigns in Survivor tier was one of the worst cards in the tier, and now look at him. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Moving to the worst females. Worst females, we're going to start off first of all with the 3rd worst female, Tamina. Again, not really surprising, she's kind of underutilized. SmackDown Live, yada yada yada, not really, she's never really hit off in WWE, which is very surprising given her lineage, but yes, let's move on. Peyton Royce then makes number 2, and again, I'm surprised, and actually, funny enough, if you look at it, Billie Kay was one of the worst females, and in fact it was worse than Peyton Royce in Beast tier, but Peyton Royce comes in Monster tier and is actually worse than Billie Kay, which makes I don't even know. Anyway, moving on from there, again, that's the NXT effect of not being around as much. And then you have Lana, who is the worst. Again, personally, I would go for Tamina being the worst because there are so many power and toughness cards. Lana is a very useful power and charisma card. Even if she's not the greatest, she can have big uses in the tier. And Peyton Royce, well, I don't personally think that she should be this low, but whatever. Now move on to the best females, and this list is very similar because it literally is exactly the same. The third best is Charlotte, enough said. The second best is Asuka, enough said. And the first best is Alexa. Enough said. Again, Asuka is hugely useful, although Alexa Bliss does have more taggable options in this, which means that I would say it's a tie between Alexa and Asuka as who are the best and most useful cards in Monster Tier. Now moving on up the Monsters Men. Now at this point in these videos that I've done in the past, you probably would have noticed that I do an overall summary. Now for Titan Tier, I will do an overall summary of the best and worst stats, but honestly between Beast and Monster Tier, it's pretty much the standard that you'll see Brock Lesnar with the best power, someone like Strowman with the best toughness, maybe Brock Lesnar with the best toughness. Best speed is going to be AJ Styles, and charisma is always going to be John Cena or Triple H or something like that. So literally it's exactly the same, and you wouldn't expect to see anything shocking in that list, which is one of the reasons why I'm not going to cover it off. Let's break down the top 5, and this top 5 is a little bit different. There are some big changes, there are some small changes, and I personally think there's a couple of big ones on here that I'm happier with this, although there's one big omission which I'm not particularly happy with. But we'll start off at number 5. Jinder Mahal, Seth Rollins. Same as Beast Tier, very simple. I think Rollins and Jinder should both be higher. Then we have number 4, a new entry, Triple H. Now this isn't surprising that he's there, but it is surprising that he's worse than Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens in this, who are at number 3. Now, Triple H, I personally believe, should have been towards the top. He's the game. He's one of the biggest superstars. I'm guessing they're basing this off his current persona in WWE, because if it's based off of his lifelong persona, the 14-time world champion should be way higher than he is. But he's got a good set of stats. He does kind of get crushed by the likes of Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, but, you know, he's useful. His power and charisma offers a very different avenue, considering there's only one other power and charisma card that's coming up later on. The third best being Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Again, I don't think Owens should be as high as this. Roman should be higher, but yes. Let's go to second, and that is Styles and Strowman. No change from Beast Tier. Again, Styles comes in with that phenomenal speed and a bit of good power to boot, and Strowman's just brawn. And moving on to number 1. Now, number 1 is actually shared by the guys who are number 1, number 2 in the last list, and that is Brock Lesnar and John Cena. John Cena coming in with that crazy charisma, and Lesnar coming in with the ridiculous power, toughness, and speed. It's important to note that even though they are at the top, Brock Lesnar, 3 stats, John Cena, power, toughness, and speed. And Lesnar has always had that benefit, even if Braun Strowman I believe, has better toughness and speed than Brock Lesnar, which isn't really surprising, but I see Lesnar as being, there's no real replacing Lesnar from the top of this list, even though he's not the best in Titan Tier, which is a little bit of a spoiler for next time. I think if I ever step 1 foot in the ring with Brock Lesnar, I will probably soil my pants in seconds. But there is your top men and women, top 5 best and worst for men, and top 3 and bottom 3 for females. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, and make sure you like this video. I'm also going to link up the best and worst Titan Tier cards up in the little eye in the top right hand corner of the video. Make sure you go check on that and see where your favorite cards. If you've got your own personal favorite cards, let me know what they are in the comment section below. Do you agree with their list of the best and worst? Let me know in the comment section as well. And how do you feel about this list being significantly different to the ratings that are in WWE 2K18? Again, let us know. Comment section below. What, in your opinion, is the best image, best card in Monster Tier? I personally Love the cut angle image, although I'm not so happy about the green that surrounds the outside. I think it suits the likes of Jeff Hardy really well. Finn Balor, it does well. I'd prefer it if you had the outline similar to the holiday cards. Just me personally, that's my own opinion. And I think it suits Enzo really well. But a lot of others kind of get lost in the colour of the cards. Beast tier, it's very simple. It's Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, those cards are absolutely fantastic. The rankings were provided to us by the SmackDown Hotel, so make sure you go check out the SmackDown Hotel and their catalogue full of all the super cards, not just from Monster, Titan and Beast tier, but actually going back throughout the years, even so far as the Season 1 Legacy card. So make sure you check it out, link in the description and in the comments section below. Anyway, I have been SuperZombieBBQ. Thank you so much for watching. And one last thing, and that is to Zombie!